He's a time-traveling killer for hire who first appeared in Transformers comics, but went on to have a long, strange history in the Marvel Universe. These are the basics on Death's Head. Death's Head was an original character created in 1987 by writer Simon Furman and artist Jeff Sr. for the Transformers comic published in the United Kingdom by Marvel. He was a robotic alien bounty hunter, though he disliked the term and instead called himself a freelance peacekeeping agent. He had a clinical, business-like attitude towards killing. He was happy to eliminate anyone without hesitation, but never for sport or revenge, only if he was being paid enough to do it. To Death's Head, killing was just business. He could remove his right hand and replace it with various projectile and melee weapons, and was known for his dark sense of humour and his distinctive, clipped way of speaking, often framing statements as questions by ending them with an inquisitive, "Yes?" Death's Head first appeared in Transformers number 113, in a story set in the then-future era of 2007, after the events of the recently released Transformers the movie. When Autobot leader Rodimus Prime placed a bounty on fugitive Decepticon Galvatron, Death's Head set out to claim the prize. He discovered that Galvatron had travelled back in time to 1987, and pursued him back through the time stream. When Rodimus learned that he was indirectly responsible for unleashing Death's Head on the unsuspecting past, he travelled back in time himself to forcibly return him to the future. Furman had conceived Death's Head as a one-shot antagonist, intending to kill him at the story's end, but Senior's striking design for the character convinced the writer that he had greater potential, and audiences agreed. Death's Head was a huge hit with the comics readers, and he returned for another story a few months later, in which the Decepticons hired him to kill Rodimus Prime. Decepticons Cyclonus and Scourge interfered with the hit, wanting to take Rodimus out themselves, which meant that Death's Head was only too happy to accept when Rodimus made him a better offer, paying him to go after Cyclonus and Scourge instead. As 1988 began, Marvel UK was gearing up to produce a new line of original comics that would be sold in both the UK and the US, and Death's Head's popularity made him an obvious candidate for his own series. But that would require getting him out of the world of the Transformers and into the Marvel Universe. And so, in his third and final Transformers appearance at the beginning of the year, Death's Head encountered and fell under the mental control of the Transformers' old enemy, the Dark God, Unicron. Unicron intended to use the enslaved Death's Head as part of a plan to manipulate the Transformers into destroying each other, but Death's Head fought back against Unicron's control and helped the Autobots destroy him. As Unicron exploded, Death's Head's only means of escape was to leap into a nearby time portal, vanishing without a trace. Death's Head's fate was revealed a month later, in issue number 135 of Doctor Who magazine, Marvel's companion publication to the long-running BBC TV science fiction series about an alien who travelled in time and space. Tumbling out of control through the time vortex after his plunge into the portal, Death's Head collided with the Doctor, who escaped the giant robot's fury by shrinking Death's Head down to human size and dumping him on Earth in the year 8162 in the Marvel Universe. This was the setting of the first of Marvel UK's new original titles, Furman and Senior's Dragon's Claws, and led directly into Death's Head appearing in that title's 5th issue in October, in which he was badly damaged in a battle with the titular team of government enforcers. Now, you might be wondering, how was a Transformers character allowed to appear in these other comics? Well, while Marvel's arrangement with Hasbro did typically ensure that any original characters who first appeared in the Transformers comic would be owned by Hasbro, somewhere along the way, Marvel, realizing the character's potential, had been able to circumvent those rules and ensure that they held the rights to Death's Head. The most frequently repeated version of the story claims that in 1987, Furman and artist Brian Hitch quickly produced a one-page Death's Head comic strip, which was printed in several other Marvel comics before the character's Transformers debut, thus securing Marvel's ownership of him. But that simply isn't true. Hitch's signature shows that this strip wasn't drawn until 1988, and it wasn't printed anywhere until May of that year, when it appeared in Transformers number 167 as promotion for Death's Head's upcoming guest appearance in Dragon's Claws. But whatever the case, however they accomplished it, Death's Head was Marvel's, and in November they finally launched his long-awaited solo series. Written by Furman and drawn by Hitch, Death's Head issue number 1 picked up where Dragon's Claws left off, with Death's Head having his damaged body rebuilt with a new look by his new sidekick, a young scavenger named Sprat. The series began by chronicling Death's Head's bounty hunting escapades in 82nd century Los Angeles. But in later issues, he was flung through time again and wound up settling in the year 2020. Though he was easily the most popular of Marvel UK's original creations, sadly the company's new line wasn't a big success, and the comic was cancelled after 10 issues, ending on a cliffhanger in August 1989. Still, there was life in Death's Head yet. The story continued a year later in Furman and Sr.'s original graphic novel, The Body in Question, which revealed Death's Head's origins. It turned out that he wasn't a native of the Transformers world. Rather, he had been created in the dimension of Styrakos by a twisted hunter named Lupex. Built as an empty robotic shell into which Lupex planned to transfer his own spirit, Death's Head had been programmed with an independent personality by Lupex's vengeful former disciple Pyra to thwart Lupex's plans for immortality. Between 1990 and 91, Death's Head made a handful of time-traveling guest appearances in various American Marvel comics, including Fantastic Four and She-Hulk, and there were also plans for a new miniseries by Furman and Sr. But this project was cancelled mid-production, as Marvel UK were preparing to make a second push into the US market, and editor Paul Neary wanted to take Death's Head in a new direction for the edgy, gritty world of 90s comics. Thus, in 1992, Death's Head 2 hit the shelves, a new miniseries by writer Dan Abnett and artist Liam Sharp, in which Death's Head was killed by Minion, a cyborg warrior created by Dr. Evelyn Necker for the evil scientific cabal, AIM. Minion psychically absorbed the instincts of his victims, but Death's Head's powerful personality wound up taking control of Minion's mind, freeing him from AIM's control and setting him on a new path as the ultra-violent anti-hero Death's Head 2. This new Death's Head became Marvel UK's flagship character, starring in his own ongoing series and spawning multiple spin-offs and crossovers. But Furman and Sr. were able to reunite to give the original Death's Head one last hurrah in 1993's What If number 54, telling the story of an alternate universe where he survived Minion's attack and rallied a group of heroes to destroy him. Though this new era of Marvel UK titles was initially much more successful than the last, the comic book market crash of 1993 forced the company to cancel most of their original series. Death's Head 2 was one of the last to go in early 1994, and Marvel UK itself shut down a year later. And with that, Death's Head all but vanished for the next decade. He remained a cult favourite with fans though, and in 2005, readers voted for him to star in a new story in the Marvel US anthology series, Amazing Fantasy. However, the resultant comic, written by Furman, illustrated by James Reyes, and set 100 years in the future, didn't feature the original Death's Head, but a new character, Death's Head 3.0, an alien cyborg that had been captured and reprogrammed to serve AIM, but which broke free of their control. Now, it was Furman's intention to reveal that this mecanoide was later taken across time by Lupax and rebuilt to become the original Death's Head, but Marvel vetoed this idea. Still, later stories would connect the character to the wider Death's Head mythos, revealing that the alien was part of an army that had been brought to Earth from the planet Sakaar by the Incredible Hulk. After being deactivated by Earth's heroes, the aliens were acquired and studied by Evelyn Necker, who, in Death's Head's future time, would use what she had learned from them to create her minion cyborg. It was in the pages of the 2009 series S.w.o.r.d. that the original Death's Head finally returned, thanks to writer Kieran Gillen, who had grown up reading the UK Transformers comic and was a big fan of the character. Specifically, this was the original Death's Head's past self, from a point in time before he crossed dimensions into the Transformers universe. And in the decade since this reintroduction, he's appeared in various titles across the Marvel universe, running into Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and more. Even joining forces with his future self, Death's Head 2, in the 2014 Marvel UK-themed event Revolutionary War, against Dr. Necker and her Death's Head 3.0 army. Notably, Simon Furman got the chance to write his creation again in a story for the UK's Marvel Heroes, illustrated by longtime Death's Head fan Simon Williams. Death's Head's even scored a few action figures along the way, a 3 3/4 inch figure in 2014's Marvel Infinite series, and a 6-inch Marvel Legends figure of Death's Head 2 in 2017. Most recently, in 2019, he enjoyed his own dedicated solo miniseries for the first time in 25 years, written by Tini Howard and illustrated by IDW Transformers artist Kei Zama, in which he teamed up with the Young Avengers to battle Dr. Necker's new Death's Head 4 and liberate her latest creation, the youthful Death's Head 5. Now, sadly, Marvel's ownership of Death's Head has meant that he and the Transformers haven't crossed paths since the 80s. Instead, the mercenary Lockdown, introduced in 2007's Transformers Animated, was created to fill his role in the Transformers universe, and his ship was even named the Death's Head in the original's honour. Transformers stories do occasionally make oblique trademark-dodging references to Death's Head, though. Notably, IDW Publishing's comic books implied he spent some time in their universe, while bouncing through time and space after his original UK Transformers adventures, but before he encountered the Doctor. Death's Head's encounters with the Transformers have been collected in trade paperbacks from Titan Books and IDW, while Marvel has collected most of his original adventures and his 2019 miniseries. But however you read his story, wherever you encounter him, whatever you do, just don't call him a bounty hunter. Yes? And those are the basics on Death's Head. Are you old enough to have grown up reading the stories of the original or Death's Head 2? Share your memories in the comments, and as always, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss next episode, the 200th installment of The Basics.